Yeah, I think in fact, if anything, like for example, this male doctor who was bottom of his class, probably has dyslexia, he has such a teachable attitude. And I think he really transformed a lot of things because of that. And I think she was slow to embrace him, and yet she realized after a while, I can make something out of this man because he's so humble.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. We're going to be listening to another best-selling author talk about her story and her inspiration for her story. So if you like what you hear, please consider subscribing and following me and leave me a review and a comment. I'd love to know what you think of today's episode. And head over to my website at artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter so that you can get a free downloadable copy of The Letter Opener, my suspense novella, so you can get a sample of my writing style and also learn more about my upcoming projects, like my next coloring book and my next suspense novel, as well as my cozy Christmas mystery story that's coming out too. So head over to artbyruth.com today and sign up for my newsletter. Okay, let's get started. Suzanne Woods Fisher is with me again today. She is the award-winning best-selling author of more than 40 books. That's right, including A Healing Touch, which was a finalist for the Carol Awards. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Suzanne talk about her new book, A Hidden Hope. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to have Suzanne Woods Fisher with me again. Welcome back, Suzanne.
Thank you so much for having me back. I really appreciate it, Ruth.
Of course, yeah, I love talking with you about your books because you do contemporary and then you also do Amish. And today we're going to talk about your new Amish book, A Hidden Hope. But before we get to that, why don't you tell us what you've been up to lately?
Well, it's been kind of an interesting couple of months, I would say, because for my husband and I, we've had these big traveling trips, and we don't usually do that. It's just one of those years that, opportunities kind of came to you. And so we actually went to the Churches of Revelation in Turkey and saw, I think, 5 out of 7 of them. Fascinating. And then, went up through little parts of Patmos, Greece, where John wrote the book of Revelation, and then into little parts of Greece. And
wow.
It was just a really eye-opening, kind of spiritually inspiring experience, which maybe sounds funny because you wouldn't expect that from ancient places, but something.
No, not at all.
No, you wouldn't. And really, you're, stumbling over Roman ruins. But I think it was so inspiring to see what the Church of God was doing in this just like brand new century and under so much persecution. And yet it just grew and grew and grew. And we went to the apostles' graves and I'm rambling a little bit here, but just to finish quickly, and just to see how these apostles, to the very end of their life, they were so faithful to what they believed, who Jesus Christ was, that he had been risen from the dead. And it just, it was just amazing, I think. It just very, very inspiring. So anyway, that's what we've been kind of up to. And as you can tell, I'm still kind of floating a little bit from a big
I don't blame you. My goodness. How did that happen? Did you find it on like a travel website or something?
No, we actually are kind of friends with a pastor and his wife who are both scholars and who do these trips in a very, like, you are learning so much ahead of time. You're going through classes ahead of time. We did, I think, 6 to 8 weeks of classes and then learned. And I happened to be doing Bible study fellowship all year with the book of Revelation, which was another layer. And honestly, Ruth, I still feel like I've just barely scratched the surface. There's just the more you know, the less you know kind of a thing. But
Yeah. Oh, that would be fascinating. I wouldn't mind a trip like that either because I love history, but also you're on this land that they traveled as well. And the early church was there. And it just seems so fascinating that that's where it all started, you know?
yeah, and it's strangely similar to our life because they were young Christians in a world that was not welcoming to them. I mean, they were in a Roman pagan world and pushing against the grain. And it was the Holy Spirit just filling them, giving them the strength to stand firm and to stand strong and to live a life of integrity. And they all did. I mean, from Philip to John to Luke to all these people's graves we went to. And it was just, I don't know, it just gave me the shivers. It's just so remarkable. Such a great story.
It is. I bet you can get a book out of it somehow, huh?
Maybe there's a lot of biblical writers that are, I mean, even fiction
That's true.
writers that do
That's
so
true.
much.
Well, I went to Slovakia years ago for a mission trip, and it was like an English camp, and so I worked with translators. And when we went to the school where we're going to be holding the English camp, they had a framed picture of their constitution that they have, and of course, it's written in their language. But the young interpreters, who are about high school age, were telling me that in that constitution, it states and gives credit to the disciples of the Apostle Paul who helped spread Christianity to that area. And I thought, wow, it mentions the disciples of the Apostle Paul. She said, yeah, it gives them honor for, coming this far north and bringing the gospel message with them to this region. And I just thought that's pretty inspirational. I think you just forget that so many, the apostles had disciples and those disciples had disciples, and they all went out as high up as the Slovakian region up there. And wow, it was just amazing to
And they were
think about
real
that.
people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's documented in many more places than even scripture. And it
Yeah.
just, yeah, it is sort of amazing to just touch that old world and realize, oh my goodness, they're our brothers and our sisters, and
Mm-hmm.
they laid the groundwork for us today.
Yeah, and because of their faithfulness, we are believers to this day. We heard the gospel message over
Yeah.
here across the pond, right?
And this is our time to,
Yeah,
be that person for the next generations.
that's true. Well, so how's your writing been? Are you working on another book?
Well, funny you should ask. Yeah. I actually am going to be, I'm in the middle, besides the Amish series about Doc and her world, I actually have been interlacing these books with a series on the national park. So I had one
Oh,
released
that's right.
just
Yeah.
last May called
Hmm.
Capture the Moment, and I've been doing a lot to kind of give that a lot of attention. And then next one coming out in that series is going to be based in Acadia, Maine. So I have traveled there and done the work. In fact, right now I'm really just going through final edits on that. That'll be out in May. And then I'm going to be doing Yosemite. So
Mm.
just yesterday, I did a day dash and I went to Yosemite just for one day. And I mean, crack of dawn up at 4:30 in the morning. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so it was not an easy drive, but it was an easy drive. It was a long drive, but it really was a quiet drive. And we just had the most wonderful day, just going from site to site. It was absolutely empty because of the national government shutdown.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a perfect weather, perfect day, no crowds. It was awesome. So I'm kind of glowing still from that because I don't know if I have the story yet in my mind of where I want to take it, but just to immerse myself in that world, and I'll need to go back a number of times, but just to get started there, there's just nothing like being there. In anytime you're writing a book, there's no excuse for that first person original sourcing.
That's true. Oh, and it's so beautiful there. I could just walk there forever. When we went there, we first started at the sequoias and we're walking around and we saw some deer, just some young, does pecking at the ground and such. And I looked at them and I looked at my husband. I said, "Are those real or animatronic?" Because I feel like I'm in a movie studio or at Disneyland or something. He laughed. He goes, "Nope, those are real."
Yeah.
So it was for us, living in the big city. It was just absolutely breathtaking. But
Mhm.
I was honored to have run the Yosemite Half Marathon, where we start at the top and then we run through the forest ranger roads all the way down through the forest, and it right at sunrise. So I got to see the sunrise over the mountains and the through the trees and hear nothing but owls and birds. It was just
Oh my goodness.
ethereal. Yeah, it was ethereal. We were so high up we couldn't have the internet, so I couldn't even listen to music. I was forced to have to listen to nothing but the wind and the waterfalls and the birds. And I tell you, it was like a religious experience. It was so
I
beautiful.
can imagine. I think I'm going to have to interview you off camera
Okay.
because I'm gathering stories and I just think, oh, I bet you saw, because really Yosemite Village is the valley is a very narrow valley, but where
Hmm.
you were would have been coming down on paths and roads that are not open to the public. And, that would be exciting.
Oh, it was. So yeah, I look forward to that story that you're going to write. Wow, so exciting. And I was thinking about you two the other day as they're showing all the bears getting ready for hibernation. They're having a contest as to which bear is the heaviest.
Yeah, the fat bears in Alaska. Yeah.
Yes. They've been showing all these bears, and I kept thinking about our last conversation. Well, let's talk about your newest book, A Hidden Hope. Tell us about this amazing story.
Well, this is set back again in Stony Ridge. So we're back in the world of the old order Amish. And I call this book kind of a hybrid Amish because it's almost 50% non-Amish and 50% Amish, which is really fun for me because I am able to use the non-Amish to look kind of to peer into the life of the Amish and kind of talk about what they observe and what they think about it and how the things they're picking up and the things they compare negatively and positively. I'm not trying to create a picture of the Amish that's sort of totally sanitized by any means, but there's parts about it that, well, you made a comment a minute ago. You didn't have internet in Yosemite, so you had to listen to nature.
Hmm.
And Ruth, I think that is such a great picture of the Amish, like living among the Amish, where you just strip away a lot of the noise that's in our life. And I think when you're in the Amish world, and this is the best of it, and this is kind of what I try to create in the books, it slows you down.
Hmm.
It makes you pay a little more attention to your surroundings. Nature plays a very large role because these are rural communities and they have such a great reverence for nature. And those are all the good things that come from kind of walking into the world of the Amish. Well, this story is about a doctor to the Amish. She was raised old order Amish, left before she was baptized to become a doctor, going to higher education. But life, as it often does, circled her back into having a practice among the Amish. She has non-Amish patients as well. And she's had this experience where a local TV production company did a feature on her as the doctor who still makes house calls because she is a believer in house calls. She just believes you get into someone's home and you're going to learn more about them than you will in 10 minutes in her office. Kind of doctor we all wish we had.
Hmm.
She ended up, this just like went viral, and the state of Pennsylvania is basically trying to get into her practice. She is overwhelmed. And so she, through a series of kind of mishaps, ends up with two brand new, spanking new doctors. They are literally just through medical school. Neither of them matched on match day, which is a really big deal in the world of doctors. One is at the top of her class in medical school, one is at the bottom of his class in medical school. They both matched for did not match for different reasons. And she ends up getting them kind of in her practice because they have found a program that would, if they go to a rural practice, then their loans can be forgiven, their medical school
Mm.
loans. And so she's willing to be their sponsor for that, their supervising doctor, but she is very slow to sort of give them the space they need to become doctors. That's kind of a little bit of the heart of it. It turns out there's a lot going on under the radar with these doctors. So that's where we learn a lot as they kind of get used to the Amish and make a lot of mistakes as they get settled. There's a love triangle because there's a nurse who as well is coming along, and a female doctor, a
Ah,
male doctor, and a nurse, and a female nurse, and both the females seemed to be quite interested in this male doctor who was at the bottom of his medical class.
Very nice. I like that. The two worlds coming together. What gave you that inspiration?
Well, I think it kind of brings up the whole idea that why are we so interested in the Amish? I like feeling as if you can use a non-Amish, an English person, as a vehicle to just
Hmm.
kind of peer deeply into the Amish. So, like when these doctors end up, or even the nurse, going into Amish homes with Doc on a house call, they are actually observing the way the Amish live. Things like how dim the lighting is inside because they don't have electrical lighting, they have lights right overhead, or how patient a mother might be, or maybe how modest, little things like that that are just ways to kind of bring it in. Whereas if I didn't have that comparison, you would bypass a lot of behaviors that I think kind of reveal more about who the Amish are.
Yeah, that's interesting though for the reader though to kind of see both those worlds. We do have this fascination with the Amish and the way they live,
Mhm.
just so vastly different than our own. And so seeing the Western medicine come into that, and I think it would be fascinating to see these residents having to learn to kind of unlearn what they've learned and then relearn something new.
Well, and they are so used to, and I'm not in the medical world, so I was very careful about this,
Mhm.
but they've come out of a world that has taught them that it's all about statistics. Statistics inform you of what the answer is. And Doc comes at medicine in an observational way. She's really looking at things that aren't being said. For example, she's in one person's house and he's having some issues and she sees, I can't even remember what it was. It was some medical, I don't know if he was, not even sure what, but he needed medication. And she noticed that on his windowsill was an unopened bottle of medication. And like that happened because she was in his house. Like she kind of just was able to observe that and make a
Mhm.
change at that point and hold him accountable for his own care. But then there's even just Western medicine and alternative medicines because the Amish are much more open to not necessarily jumping into heavy medications or surgeries. They will try reflexology and chiropractors and a lot of different kind of um, just alternative choices. Then and that these two medical students are just like they can't handle that. They're
Yeah, I can imagine. So what kind of research did you have to do to make their voices, come across so genuine?
This was tricky because I really want to be careful that there's nothing I'm saying that is not correct. I try to use examples that were pretty clear and obvious and known. I did a lot of research. I have friends who are doctors and nurses, and I was able to just, okay, is this plausible? Is this how something would happen? Is this how it would unfold? So I was really, I still feel just nervous. Like I just want to make sure I'm never pointing someone in the wrong direction. But I think after the work I did and then all the Ravel eyes that pass over things, I think we're okay. But
Oh, that's
so there's
great.
that. And I think just even learning a lot about the matching process was fascinating. I have a daughter-in-law who's getting her residency in clinical psychology, and she went through a match day too for that world. And pins and needles, and your life is changing, and you don't know where you're going to be matched. You put in your hopes, but you don't know that will be that they'll pick you.
Yeah, it's kind of like the military. When my husband was in the Marine Corps, he put in what he wanted for his first choice as to where to be stationed and was told, well, you probably won't get it. So put the least one, the least favorite first, and then your most hopeful last. So he did that. And blessedly, he got a really good selection, a good base that we went to. But you're right. It's just you're putting all your hopes on something that's completely out of your control. You have to be willing to just pick up and move. So
Did it work out was that strategy wise for your husband?
it worked out nicely.
Wow.
And we went to North Carolina and it was a beautiful base. We were very, very blessed to be out there. So, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so what were some of the challenges you faced though in writing this story?
Well, I think the medical world is one that's constantly changing so fast.
Oh, that's true,
So
huh? Yeah.
that was there again, just trying to make sure I was presenting a credible situation with some of the things that were going on, yet um, without it being too specific to, you know, it's not a textbook, that kind of thing. So I think, I mean, for example, like there was a man with diabetes and he had just been diagnosed and he really didn't know how to take care of himself. And so that was one of the turning points, like where one of the doctors went and literally just worked with him and showed him how to do some of the care. I mean, that's, I think a lot of what I was trying to do was just to show how to help people take care of themselves. And that, I
Mm,
think that came from Doc. I mean, I know she's fictitious, but she just is an incredible doctor. So
yeah.
can just really zero in on what is the main issue here and how are we going to solve it.
Now, as Christian writers, we love to put those themes in our stories so that readers walk away with more than just, being entertained. What were some themes you have in your story? I mean, it's called A Hidden Hope, so we can kind
Mhm.
of assume that. But what were the themes that you want readers to take away from your story?
Well, I think some of them was discovering one's calling,
Mm.
because there's a couple different main characters in this story. And so I've been talking about the doctor and the her medical practice, but there's also a young Amish woman named Annie Fisher, no relation. And Annie had this longing to become an EMT, which is true in the Amish world. There are EMTs. It would be, you know, acceptable based on a church by church basis, but there are female Amish EMTs. And she just felt this strong calling to that world. And yet she had a problem in it. So, and I won't give anything away, but she just did not give up. And I think that was the same for some of especially the doctor who was the bottom of his medical school. He ended up, this is not giving anything away, but he ended up towards the end where they realized he probably had dyslexia, and yet he somehow, so anytime he was taking a test, he was terrible, but has the makings to be a very good doctor, a little bit like our Doc Stoltzfus in that sense of observing. So I think that was one of the main themes, was kind of really discovering your calling and answering that calling on your life.
Oh, I love that. That's a powerful message, though, that a lot of us, that really resonates with us, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how she still makes those house calls. She's still hands-on. I think that's a powerful message for readers out there who are considering becoming, a nurse or an EMT or a doctor, that there's so much that we can still learn from that,
Mm-hmm.
that practice. Yeah. It requires a lot of humility too, I think, and realizing you may not have all the answers, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think in fact, if anything, like for example, this male doctor who was bottom of his class, probably has dyslexia, he has such a teachable attitude. And I think he really transformed a lot of things because of that. And I think she was slow to embrace him, and yet she realized after a while, I can make something out of this man because he's so humble and he has, just like you were saying, and so teachable. Whereas the other woman who was the top of her class was a wee bit less teachable.
Mm. Well, A Hidden Hope is out in the world right now. So, listeners, head over to Amazon, get your copy. And how can they get in touch with you, Suzanne?
I love to connect with readers. I really, really genuinely do. It's not just an author thing. And so I have on my website, www.suzannewoodsfisher.com, you can sign up for my newsletters. I have one that I send out every single Friday morning, and it's kind of like a coffee chat just between me and my readers. And a lot of them will answer back and do polls to see what people are thinking. And it's really, really fun. I enjoy it. Like last week was about bird migration that's going on right now. 4 billion birds flying across down 4 flyways. And,
Wow.
so I try to make it very interesting. It's not heavy promotion, it's kind of a light one. But I would really encourage people to sign up for my newsletters because that's where good things are coming.
Yeah. That's a great way to contact you and stay in touch and learn more about your upcoming projects. And so
Yes,
you're working on your research for the story in Yosemite, and
yes.
then you're working on edits for your next book. Anything else you're working on?
No, but well, I guess the only thing that made me super happy last week was my editor had read through the manuscript for this last book of docs that is yet to be named, and I didn't even need revisions. No, that doesn't mean I won't need edits down the way. This was the acquisition editor, but
Sure.
she really loved this story, so it passed
Oh,
through just with her reading it a couple times, and there weren't any major issues at all, and that's made me so happy. I just felt all week long like I was floating, because when you hand in a manuscript, it's kind of like you just made Thanksgiving dinner all by yourself, and you're sort of waiting for people to say something, like, and waiting and waiting. So
you're right. And so you find out that you did a great job and they love it. Oh, that's wonderful. I don't think you really know what that truly means.
oh, I know, it's so
Where
much.
your acquisitions editor didn't have any major issues with your story. That is phenomenal. Wow,
Yeah,
you should be very proud of
thank you,
yourself.
Ruth. Thank you. I am so pleased.
I can't even imagine that. That is spectacular. And wasn't one of your stories nominated as a finalist for a
Yeah, it was a
Christie?
finalist. In fact, it was the Healing Touch, which precedes this A Hidden Hope,
Yeah. Oh,
for
that's
a Carol
wonderful.
finalist. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yay. Well, Suzanne, it is always so exciting to talk to you about your current books and your upcoming projects. And I look forward to the Yosemite story, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And so thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today.
my pleasure, Ruth. Thank you.
Wow, wasn't that exciting? I love talking with Suzanne about her stories and the research that she does and her inspiration for these stories. So amazing. And I hope that you've been inspired too. And remember, A Hidden Hope is available on Amazon right now. So head over and get your copy and let Suzanne know what you think of her new book. Leave her a review and head over to her website to sign up for her newsletter too. And be inspired to keep going forward, challenging yourself with some difficult topics or some topics that you're passionate about to make you keep writing. And I thank you so much for listening today. Until next time, God bless.